Hey there and welcome back. So let's get started to create the login user function. We did the register and we have a lot of imports. We're not using the JSON web token as of now, but we will in the next function here. So just like with the register user, I prepared a little boilerplate code here so we can see the outline of the function. This can be done in different ways. We still have an asynchronous function, login user, request response, and we have a couple of comments here that outlines what we want to do. We want to validate the user login info. So this is using our joy validation function down here. And we can see we only need email and password, and it must be an email again here. Then we want to find the user in the repository, and if we have the user, we will create an JVT token and send it back to the user. And if we don't have a user, if we can't find it, that means that the user have typed in the wrong email or password. So let's get into this, and we can see here that the validate user login info is much alike what we had in the registering, so we can make a constant that we can set for this validate login user login info, and we will pass in the request and body for this. And if we have an error, we will send a response status 400, just like we did with register. Send a JSON, and we will put in the error just like we did before, and we will take the details. So this is the same as we did earlier on, because we're taking advantage of Joy and the messages that we get from the Joy validation package. And then we will return if we have an error. So this means it is a faulty email if it's not the correct length, if it's the wrong data formatting. Okay, so then we need to find the user in the repository, and this means that we need to connect to the database. And maybe we should just put this up here. So we're going to make a constant called user, and this is of the type user. And let's see if I can find this. We're going to make an await, and we're going to use our user model to find one. So a bit the same as when we searched if the user was already registered. So now we have the email, we have the request body email. So we're searching for the email because this should only be one email for each user. So if the user exists, there is only one, and then we will get the user, and we can find the password hash. Okay, so let's see here. If we don't have a user, this means that the input might be wrong, or we just don't have a user in the database, and the user cannot log in. So we're going to send back a message, and we're going to say error email is, and probably to make it even more difficult for hackers to know what's wrong here, we could say that password or email is wrong, because if we typed in email is wrong, then the hacker will know that this might be actually true, this might be what is wrong, and then I can go further into this and type in another email, then it's not the password that's wrong. So I'm going to put in both here, so it's not obvious what is wrong here. And then we will return. Then we can do an else statement here. So this means we have a user, and when we have a user, we can also create an auth token and send it back to the client. So next thing is that we want to find the password. We want to check if the passwords are correct, because we have a user, because otherwise we wouldn't be in the else block here. So this means that we need to retrieve the password from the repository and compare it with the password that has been sent in the request body. So valid, this is the valid password hash. Let's see if I can find it. Let me just make one. Yeah, let me just make this like this, Boolean. So we're going to make a constant that knows if the password is valid. And this is because we're going to make a check using bcrypt. Let's see if I can find it. Compare. And compare method will take different things. It's going to take first off the request body password that will be in clear text that has been sent, and then we will compare it with our hashed version from the database. So bcrypt will hash this password and compare it to this hash. Right, so this would be true false here. Let's see, next up, and we can check if if we don't have a valid password, we're going to send a status 400 and basically the same as we did just before. Yes, password or email is wrong. To make it difficult for a hacker to know what is wrong, if it's the password or the email that I need to work on. Maybe type in another password. So let's move further on. So we can make a constant called user ID. This would be of the type string, and then we will set this to our user ID. So if we are down here in the code, this means that we have a valid request body, email password. We have found the user. The password is also correct, because otherwise we would end up in this status 400. I need to type in return here so we don't get further on. So let's see. Now we need to make this auth token and send it back. So we'll make a const token that is a string, and we will set this to JVT. And then we can see we have sign method. So let's see if we go to JVT tokens. This is the decoded JVT. So there is a payload, there is an algorithm, a type, and then there is a signature, and this comprises all the entire JVT. So if we can put in a name when it is issued at different things, and this will all be encoded into this token here. Okay, so this has nothing to do with bcrypt. This is not about hashing your password or anything. This is just a token that can be exchanged between the client and the server. Okay, so since this is a more complex object that it requires, let's make a new JSON object here. if you hover over a sign, we can see that it takes these things here, different components in the method. You see payload is a string or an object, secret or private key, and some options. And the first part here is the payload. And the payload should be, we can put in the name, we can include the email, and then ID. And this might be useful for the client that wants to know these information for a profile page or something. Okay, so then we also need, you can see here it says a secret, I think, secret or private key. So we need to have some sort of information that is secret to when we create this token. We can also see, I think it is maybe, yeah, your secret here. We can include. We have the payload, we have the secret, and the secret can be many things. Just a string typically. We should not put this directly into our source code because then it would be too easy to inspect it. Maybe you get access to the source code, and this will be transpiled to JavaScript, so you can actually see it in clear text here. So the best way is that we, just like we did with the database host here, we will put this information in our env file. Let's call it token secret, and we need to mark this as a string. Yes, and we're gonna create this just in a minute. So that's the secret, and then the last component is the options. And the options in here we can provide, among others, we can provide when the token expires. And what should we set it for? Normal recommendations is maximum couple of hours or so, and we specify it in this format here, either in milliseconds, so this would be 10 milliseconds, or you can also specify in days or hours or minutes, like this. So I'm going to set this for 2 hours. This means that the token will expire after 2 hours, and then you need to relog in. All right, so this is the object that we will pass into our sign, a method in the JVT. Okay, then we need to attach the token and send it back to the client. Okay, so we're going to make a response, and I will put this this token in the header of the response and also in the data. Depends on what the client needs, what they will use. So the header, I will call this auth token. So this would be the name of our token when we want to retrieve it or test it from Postman, among others. And we will do this afterwards. So we will make the header auth token, and I will put the token, attach it here. And then I'm also going to send a JSON response. So just like we did with the other one, with the register, we have no errors. And I'm going to set data to be two things: user ID, because maybe you need it from there, and also the token. So we can see how this works out when we work with this. Okay. Let me see here. Maybe also we will send status 200 to indicate that it was okay, and then put it in the header and the JSON. And maybe, I don't know if we can do something. Maybe it depends on what you want to. Oh. if you want to break up this chaining here, but to make it look better. But otherwise, just this. And finally, let's just, because getting longer this video, so if we have an error, we will just to make status 500, send error logging in user, and maybe an error message. All right. And finally, await disconnect. All right, so that was a lot of code again in our login user. In the next video, we will test this out in Postman to see if it works. So, hope you make this work and have fun and happy coding. Bye-bye.